Kids was actually my entry because Chitty Bang sampled that song. And if anyone knew me at that time, I was a huge Chitty Bang fan.
Right.
So
Wow.
Yeah,
This is what is going on in this musical period of your life?
Man, it was a different time. It was a different time. Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For all my people watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, leave us a comment, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe. My name is Adriel Smiley, a.k.a. AdrielSmiley.com, a.k.a. Adriel Smiley Official, a.k.a. The Godfather. And we are here with His Royal Highness, a.k.a. The Bunny, King Grant.
What's happening, people? We're back. This time, it's with MGMT, Loss of Life. Okay, one of the, I want to say, seminal rock bands of the 2010s or late 2000s.
2010s.
Yeah.
2010s.
They have released new music in an era where hip-hop, I would say, is king. We have somehow found ourselves reviewing rock music more than once in the past month.
During Black History Month.
During Black History Month, yeah. We're doing white artists. That's really interesting, actually. I never really considered it that way. Because we did Yeet before that. But, yeah.
Dr. Umar would not be happy.
Yeah. It's like, what's going on here? How come, why aren't you reviewing the Kid Cudi album? Respectfully.
We'll leave that alone. We'll leave that alone.
But yeah, so it's MGMT, Lost of Life. One of those bands that I think if you're a millennial, you know those four letters mean a lot to you. Okay, that phrase "electric feel" change your life.
Yeah, this is something that we don't have anymore. Is a band where there's a song more popular than the band. Like Electric Feel as the song is way more popular than MGMT as a band. And at that time, I'd say early 2010s. They were one of the most buzzed about bands at that time. Like they were getting a lot of love, and I was saying they were electronic rock, psychedelic, poppy. But this is their first album since 2018.
Yeah.
So 6 years since the project. What was your entry into MGMT? How did you hear about them? Get involved in any way? Like, what was your entry into MGMT?
I can't remember the specific moment, but I remember the specific song. It wasn't actually Electric Feel, which I think is the break-in moment for a lot of people. It was Kids.
Yeah. Yes. Kids came first, correct?
Bro, you're talking about...
That's too much. That's too much.
I was literally a kid. But yeah, when I heard Kids, I think it must have been like a commercial or something. And I was like, this song is dope. Right, and then I looked them up and I found like the rest of the album, and it was like, oh, Electric Feel is pretty crazy too, and Time to Pretend is also sick as well.
Yeah.
So that's how I got drawn in. I think that MGMT, well, maybe the people that are older than us
or younger.
If they're younger, they would know like the hits, the songs I just mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm curious on whether or not they're checking for this album, but I think people that are older than us,
yes,
this is like, remember like college days? Like I remember hearing this in like freshman
college for me. Yeah,
this is like a freshman year, something like that. But I wasn't even in high school when this was happening. So
yeah, it's funny because I think that they became way more popular 3 or 4 years after this happened. But the album you're thinking of is Oracular Spectacular.
Yeah.
Hard to say then, hard to say now. But that was actually in 2007, which feels like, pretty early in those times. But it makes sense because this was a time when people downloaded music.
I know.
Like actually downloaded the physical files.
Rest in peace, LimeWire.
And that's how I got into MGMT. Is I had a friend in college who had every MGMT album on a thumb drive. And at that time, I was just saying, give me everything from this artist. I wasn't dipping my toe in. Whatever artist it was, if I was unaware, I said, give me everything you have from them. So I had, 3 MGMT albums on my MacBook at the time, just in the downloads folder.
Wow.
And yeah.
When I was proposing that we do this review, I was like, oh, this is kind of out of left field. I don't think he's gonna be into it. But after this story, I'm like, oh my God, I was just sitting in the cut and I didn't realize you're already here.
No, I was, and that's kind of what makes me think that this era doesn't exist anymore at all. Is because this is an artist who, when I got into them, I was immersed right away. Yeah. It's like I Electric Feel. The popularity of that song grew so much that you started hearing it at parties. Like,
yeah.
Think of a party where they play Electric Feel. That's the kind of party you want to go to. Those parties don't exist anymore. But, I first knew them as a complete band with complete projects.
Yep.
And then afterwards, I was like, okay, there's these hit songs and Kids. And Kids was actually my entry because Chitty Bang sampled that song. And if anyone knew me at that time, I was a huge Chitty Bang fan.
Right.
So
wow.
Yeah.
This is what is going on in this musical period of your life?
Man, it was a different time. It was a different time. But yeah, I wanted to bring up kind of the past because I do think this kind of band, in terms of the sonics, is not as popular anymore at all. And I think in terms of the style of the singing, I think this is like a singing style which I don't want to credit D'Angelo because I can't credit D'Angelo with everything, but it's kind of this like almost falsetto that's almost inaudible that you're like, okay, I need to really read to know what they're saying. This was a thing at this time. Foster the People did a lot of it as well.
Foster the People.
Yeah, so thinking about the singing style, it's like, we are listening to this album in the present. We're not living in the past.
Yeah.
But this kind of style of singing mixed with this, style of production is not something that you hear from a new artist as much anymore.
Yeah, you just took me back when you said Foster the People. Holy shit. Which was 2010 or 11, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, well, we're reviewing rock, which is, I don't think it's not outside of our purview because I think the first ever or second ever review we did was Dominic Pike.
You want to call him rock, but I just think that's, rock adjacent.
Yeah, rock adjacent.
Yeah.
So we've dabbled in this realm, and I think that it's just interesting to see that MGMT, even on the timeline, people are talking about their music again, which it felt like a flashback because I'm like, who is listening? Respectfully, who is listening to MGMT seriously like that right now?
Well, I think it's probably some people, but there's no new music. It's kind of the point too. It's like Little Dark Age was in 2018.
Yeah.
That is like well before the pandemic. So if you think about that as like, it's
forever ago.
Basically a whole other lifestyle.
Yeah, for real though, because think about it, in 2019, Old Town Road came out.
Yeah. Like, so when you think about that, it's kind of like, this is definitely the resurgence because 6 years between projects for anybody is a long time.
Yeah.
Whether it's Kendrick Lamar or Beyonce, it's a long time between projects. And then as well, all their fans are so much old. Even 2018 is like, we were still kind of in our mid-20s. We're still, some people might be in that college, university age as the fans who grew up with this band. We're all grown now.
Yeah.
So even in that case, I think it's a little different. I want to talk about their single, Mother Nature. Because that was one that I didn't even know that was a single till after, like looking through the project. That that being a single went right past me. But do you think that was the right choice as a single? Is there a different song that you think would be a better single for them?
I think, and I think this ended up being a single, was Bubblegum Dog.
Yes.
Is like the juice. I think Bubblegum Dog is the first song where I played it and I replayed it immediately after. And I do take note of that. Right, I mentioned that a couple of times on other reviews for different songs. It's like if I really like press repeat on a song,
it means something.
That means it means something. It means like it's actually really sticky and like whether or not it's the vocals or whether or not it's the chorus. For that song, I think it's the chorus that really brings you back in. So I think it's Bubblegum Dog, right? Even though I'm not 100% sure what a bubblegum dog is.
Me neither, man. I like that. That's one of the songs that I was like, I'm not really sure everything about what this song means.
Yeah,
and maybe that's part of the point.
Yeah, maybe because I think there are definitely like there's a lot of imagery in the lyrics, but there's things where like you have to know an analogy that they're also spinning on, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I think one of the best examples of that. We said we were gonna do production first, but we're actually talking about
somehow we're at lyrics.
But I think it's in Phardie's song, right? Which is my favorite song.
Okay.
I like that. I like that it's a nursery rhyme. There's a sequence in Phardie's song where you have to like know a saying to also know that they're spraying off of a saying.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a section where he's like, a holy light was gifted to me. Anytime the music plays and the morning comes to wash it away, then I can sing for you every day if you want me to. So this section where it's like, anytime the music plays, so you know, like the idea of like maybe like the fat lady sings or like to play somebody off at the end of a night, right? 'Cause that's the end of the night, right? Then you can see where they say, and the morning comes to wash it away, right? So you're thinking about like all like the fat lady sings or like, you know, the stressors at the end of the night, then the morning washes it away. So you have to know, you have to think of that like extra degree to any sort of like metaphor or saying that like already exists in real life. Then you have to think an extra level deeper of like, okay, we both know that thing. So what is the next line connecting to it actually means? So I think that's one of the like starkest examples. There's a couple others that where he's referencing like, you know, being in an oyster, but like he's referencing like a painting, like a famous painting of an oyster, instead of actually just saying the world is my oyster. It's like the world is my something cane. I can't even remember, but they're like the world is my name of painting here, and then continues on right in the rest of the song. Instead of saying the world is my oyster. So this one really benefits from like you gotta closely read the lyrics to fully understand, and I think that's like positive and negative, right? Because I think it's a kind of a negative because when you like passively listen to it, the music low key sounds a little bit simple.
Yes.
But there's a lot of subtleties to it that I think are important.
I think that's part of what makes, you know, MGMT is like, you can just listen for the music. I think that there is almost two listens here in this album. There's a passive listen where you can enjoy it as a passive listen, and then there's a deeper listen where you can enjoy it as a deeper listen as well. So I think that it does hurt it for maybe for certain listeners, but I do think that's a unique, you know, talent to be able to have both of those side by side. Let's stick with lyrics and go on to Nothing Changes, which is, you know, a song that kind of stuck out to me pretty quickly, because this, I think, album is for a actual music listener. I think there are the kind of people in your life who they're very casual fans. You know, all their favorite artists are the big artists. There's no hipster shit with that person, you know? You know, there's a friend you have who all they listen to is Chris Brown and Justin Bieber, you know? Yeah. And this is not for that fan.
What a life that person must live. It's such an easy life.
Such an easy life. But this is not for that person. You know, regardless of what genre they're into, I think this is not for the casual pop listener. This is for, you know, someone who's a little more in tune and can understand the nuances of some of these songs. Now, on Nothing Changes, there was one line that stood out to me, but I'm going to read you guys the full chorus. Okay. He says, "And I feel strange, like I shouldn't be here. Let me know if you receive me. If I could change, then I wouldn't be here. Oh, nothing's going to change. Believe me, so don't lead me on." I thought that this whole idea of nothing's going to change, believe me, if I could change, then I wouldn't be here. That's such a unique, you know, stance to take of just like, listen, I'm trying to change and this is not happening, you know?
Yeah, we're used to hearing that in a toxic love situation. I feel like they're more like helpless. You get a sense of helplessness on this?
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of what this song gave to me, because, and also as well, I wish I was joking, is also another helpless one. But again, it's that idea of it's not like I just don't care. It's like I'm trying, but I'm being real with you. Like
it's not working.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
So I thought Nothing Changes was so interesting for that reason, because they're just saying both at the same time. Like literally the line before says that I could change, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? So I think it's so interesting because there's usually almost like a false hope when it comes to talking about romance and the idea of changing and becoming a better person. And we've heard, you know, umpteen songs, especially in R&B, of I'm going to change, I'm going to be better for you, better for us. This is, None of that.
No,
None of that. So I thought that was so interesting because you're right. That hopelessness is refreshing in a sense.
Yeah, because you don't really hear it.
It's refreshing in a sense, and because it's not attached to like a begging, or a yearning. It's kind of like stay or don't stay.
Yeah,
it's like
it is what it is.
It's like I'm trying to change. I may not, but stay or don't stay. So I thought that was interesting because again, we don't hear that pretty often.
Yeah, and I think the idea of like hopelessness or like just like giving up.
Yes,
there's a lot of giving up, which is maybe it's because of the genres of music we usually listen to. There's a triumphant aspect to pretty much like it's kind of core to hip hop actually at this point. I want to say that from the very beginning, but at this point there's an element of triumph that is happening.
Everyone is rich,
right?
Yes.
So to hear like hopelessness and like giving up, just like walking away and just like thinking that you can't succeed is like bizarre, but also cool in a way because I think that there are people definitely feel that way in real life.
And MGMT, I would say, is not known for that. I would say like their biggest songs are not giving that energy.
Yeah, but their biggest songs, they also, if you read the interviews about them early, like there was like ironically made those songs.
And this is kind of where I'm at, where I think this is essentially a win for them because this is 6 years since the last project. I'm sure some people haven't listened to MGMT since that 07 album.
I'm one of those people.
So, as coming in as a kind of reborn MGMT fan, you get a whole new band to basically listen to. You know what I mean? Like, essentially because this is the time where the sonics are matching the lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, Song Nothing Changes, even though I wish I was joking, even Phardie's song or Phradie's song, like, these songs sonically give that despair. So it's like we're in a place where, even if you miss the lyrics, you're going to walk away from this a little more depressed.
Yeah. Sorry, I said Phardie's song. I meant Phradie's song when
Phradie's,
I said
Phradie's. There we go.
But so there is that element, like Nothing to Declare. Nothing to Declare is one of those songs where hopeless is maybe not correct for Nothing to Declare, but there is like I'm trying to think of a word different than hopeless. There's like I don't even like here. I'll give you the sequence that I came up with. I was really interesting to me, and then we'll see if you can think of the word for me. Right, Nothing to Declare. So first of all, the song kind of reminds me of like the Beatles, but when the chorus comes through and it's like, starlight ain't never gonna let me down until I stumble like a drunkard back to town. Then I end up where you are, keeping the sanctuary warm. Don't ask me who I am. Don't ask me where I am. Right? Nothing to declare. Nothing in the valise of my mind. All the documents are there, but still there's something to decide. The world's my fin declare. This is the oyster thing that I was talking about. Right? Instead of saying the world's my oyster, he's like, the world is my insert painting here. Here's the reference. The waters beckon me to dive. I can tell the pearls in there, and still there's nothing I can find. So the word is like not hopeless, but it's like defeatist.
Yeah, it's a cousin of hopeless for sure.
It's
like
defeatist,
despair.
Despair is a good one.
Yes.
Right, where like nothing to declare. Right, like the idea like of nothing to declare in this song is like, it's like almost like twofold, because you can be like nothing to declare, where it's the point is like I almost like kind of likened it to being like in university, and like you can be undeclared.
Yes.
In university, and like in this song is like they're just like a drunkard, like walking around trying to figure out what exactly the person's trying to do with their life, right? Or nothing to declare is kind of like they're like looking for like a purpose or for a meaning, and they say if I'm worlds away, I'll hold mountains in my hands. Like starlight ain't never gonna let me down. So like the idea of here's another saying. It's like shoot for the stars, and if you miss, you'll land on a cloud. It's like starlight never gonna let me down is in reference to that, right? And then he said, until I stumble like a drunkard back to town, then I end up where you are. So it's like you're trying to make this like, this grand feat of whatever you're trying to do, and then you fail, and then you're just like, you come back to where you were at the beginning. So that's what I'm talking about, where it's like defeatist, but then there's also this like element of trying, like attempting.
Yes.
There's an attempt.
Yes.
An attempt was made, but when he says like the waters beckon me to dive, I can tell the pearls in there, and still there's nothing I can find. There's like this trying to grip anything.
It's like being disappointed over and over again.
But still trying to make the attempt.
There's that phrase where they says, the goal is to be discouraged, not defeated.
Yeah.
And the point of that phrase is like, stuff may be hard, but don't actually give up. That's kind of what this is on. Is like, we're not giving up all the way. We're tired of the bullshit, but we're not giving up all the way.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense. This album is called Loss of Life.
Yeah.
Even in the album title, I think that they're doing all the things you're talking about in the lyrics in the album title. Loss of life is a fancy way of saying death. Yeah. And so it's like calling the album Death maybe has a different connotation to it. It sounds a little different. Calling it Loss of Life is a little sprinkle on that, and it sounds a little better. So that's kind of part of what they've done this whole entire project is take something you may have heard before, a phrase and turn it on its head, say it in a different way. So they've done that, all over this. I wish I was joking. I had to talk about I wish I was joking because I think that's such a that song is the one that is probably the most comedic. Yeah. Just because he's saying I wish I was joking.
Yeah, I like the chorus. That's the chorus.
But even him saying I wish I was joking is like in a sad way. Yeah. It's like this is so bad. I wish this
was joking.
Yeah, that kind of thing. In verse 1, he says, half of love is still love. You beg the dawn to ease you in past the time 1,000 ways. In the dump, you'll find love half the time. I feel sad, and any kind of love will do, but it's a job. I don't know if that's a dream in a style that's insincere. Starting from the top when he says half of love is still love, that's, again, you could say that's glass half full, things are working out for me.
Brent Faiyaz could have said that line.
Brent Faiyaz definitely could have said half of love is... That's what we're gonna work on somebody for sure.
Brent Faiyaz could have said
he
that.
He got someone's daughter in a tizio for that one.
Yeah.
But this is very much the heartbreak song to me on this project because again, the idea half the love is still love, half the time I feel sad. It's kind of the idea of when you're with someone, it's like it's good sometimes, and sometimes it's not. And that optimistic view of, but when it's good though, it's
great.
This is really a toxic song in that sense, because if it's only good half the time, then it ain't good. That's what it is. So I like the way that they deliver this to us because I feel like, again, Brent Faiyaz could have said that this could have been a song with a whole different tone with the same lyrics. If Giveon had sang this, a whole different tone. And then there's a part in here before the end of the verse where he says, and any kind of love will do. Like, talk about throwing your pride in the washroom and locking the door. Like, any kind of love will do. And so it's like, it's not giving any kind of love will do in the like begging and yearning sense. It's any kind of love will do in the like, I'm discouraged. This is
whatever.
And so again, it's like, I think about a song like this where the lyrics are pretty straightforward in a sense, even if it's talking about a lot of half stepping in each direction, it is pretty straightforward. But the way that they deliver it and the sonics of the song give it a whole different tone. When this could have been, please come back to me type of song. Yeah. When it's not at all.
Yeah, it's so defeatist. And especially with the singing, and singing on that track specifically, it's like he's in a bed just like wasting away. He's like, I wish I was joking. I cannot, the lifelessness in the vocals is on purpose, and it's done to great effect because that person, like, he's like almost like depressed.
Yeah,
when he's singing, like, he's been laying in their bed for like 3 days or some shit like that, and hasn't moved, and it's like, I wish I was joking.
It's like, hey.
So I think that the singing is done, I would say, well. I would say that the singing is like not very rangy.
No,
not big range.
No.
We're living in the same pocket, pretty much the entire album, actually.
For sure. There's a couple where they do the pseudo falsetto.
Yeah.
I was joking, not one of those. But in the other songs they do. But you're right, it's in the same pocket the whole time. And this is another kind of blast from the past where, think about the vocal range on this project. And even from kind of all the MGMT I've listened to, if they were to go into American Idol, I don't know how far they get.
Yeah, that's
You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some bangers here, but I don't know how far they're getting. But a band that can be so successful and popular without having the most vocal range or vocal prowess, it's like,
Yeah, and it's not spectacular. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, their singing is not spectacular.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it's not like, because you can even think of, like, there are some artists who can really sing, like Beyonce.
Yes.
And then there are some artists who are just like, I guess, which I would say is like a SZA.
You're canceled.
Right?
I would say a Post Malone fits more into that. Like you said, SZA. Some people argue SZA can sing better than Beyonce. Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I think Post Malone is one of the person you're thinking of.
You can do a Post Malone or even like a Ray Shremmerd.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like the group Ray Shremmerd. Where it's like, it's okay. Right? But I would say their music is a lot more, like the production style of their music is way more evocative.
Yes.
Right? There's way more, just more bounce. It's faster. What you're singing about is more salacious.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like this album, they just like reduced it to atoms. Right? Like they just reduced it. I'm saying this in a good way.
No, I know you are, but it
doesn't sound that
it
great.
doesn't sound good, but
But the singing is dreary.
Yes.
Right? It's lifeless.
Yes.
But it's on purpose. Right? And they're selling this hopelessness, this defeatism, right? It's sad. The loss of life is sad.
Do you have any other lyrics? 'Cause I got some production notes I want us to touch on.
I don't think so. I think Bubblegum Dog is probably the only other one, just because I need somebody to explain to me what a bubblegum dog is. In the comments,
Internet.
can you please explain to me what a bubblegum dog is? Because I know like the black dog is being depressed.
Yes.
I know that. So first time I've heard of a bubblegum dog, I'm assuming is it pink? Am I missing like a metaphor? Am I missing, like there's probably like, oh yeah, in like, the 15th century, this writer wrote, this French writer in this one book wrote this thing. And I'm like, fuck it if I know. But, so yeah, like the painting one, at least like I got.
Yeah.
I got the painting one, but yeah, I don't know what a bubblegum dog is, but I do like that section of like, I want to say like halfway through where they go to like that voice box. I guess I'm going to production too. Is like they have this voice box effect that really reminded me of Gorillaz when I was listening to it.
Okay.
Right. And I think that is like them being able to, I would say, do a balancing act between, I want to say it's kind of like dream rock or dream pop, but then also have like their electric guitars be like kind of heavy at times and have these vocal effects, which is not dream. The radio effect is not a dreamy effect.
No.
Right. So for them to be able to balance all these things on that one song particularly, is something that I'm like, wow, this is like, I was not expecting this from the guys who release Kids. Okay, I was not expecting that.
Bubblegum Dog is a standout production wise.
Yeah.
I think they did a lot of things on that song and did them right on that song.
Yeah.
Reddit says that Bubblegum Dog is referring to change.
Okay.
So if that's incorrect, let us know in the comments.
Well, that makes more sense now because when I when I look at the lyrics, where they were like basically talking about, we're talking about like, oh, I hope it's a false alarm, but the pain of a bubblegum dog, which is hard for me to say. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say. Is finally catching up with me. Who would believe I saw tenement homes built upon a fault line, juvenile cicada birds living in the coal mine, manicured lawns, Tibetan straw men, igneous basketballs drifting through the heavens. I felt hate towards the earthly world. I love this part. I felt hate towards the earthly world, but hate is a very strong word, right? It's finally catching up with me. I like that part. That's that sequence. But I like the change where you're like, okay, you're seeing like these, shit flying through the air, manicured lawns, Tibetan strawmen. This idea of like the changing of the times, saying like things that you don't necessarily like agree with.
Yeah.
Is really interesting to me. So Bubblegum Dog, I like the song. The lyrics getting a little bit dicey. We highlighted the good parts of the lyrics, but I want to say this one, it got a little bit dicey.
I like the second half of Bubblegum Dog where they go into that guitar solo for a little bit. They have a few songs where they do stuff like that. And I think that is part of what makes this album good to me, is that these songs don't feel super like elongated or drawn out to me.
Even though some of them are like 4 minutes long, 5 minutes long.
There's some that are 6 minutes long. Yeah. So it's 7 minutes long. So it's like the fact that they don't feel drawn out to me when we haven't said this on this podcast, but there's not many lyrics on this album.
Yeah.
Like these songs are not overwritten, close to underwritten.
Close to underwritten.
But it's like for these songs to be almost underwritten and some of them to be 5, 6, 7 minutes long and they don't feel drawn out, I think it is a test of the production, because there are some of these songs that have a full 90-second intro, like Nothing Changes, where it's like the song doesn't start properly for so long.
Yeah. But
somehow we'll sit back and listen, and that's cool. So I think, for an album that I don't consider to be overly dynamic, that's a pretty rare quality for us to still be interested in some of these songs in a way that doesn't feel drawn out. And then Nothing Changes in particular, that guitar is super light but prominent. And I think that's a rare thing on this project, because sometimes when the guitars come in, it's more like Bubblegum Dog. And it's like, we here now, Nothing Changes is like, okay, we're in the corner, but you can see us.
Yeah.
We're kind of sitting on the bed, you can see us. So I like Nothing Changes. Again, even though it's probably the longest song on the album, 6:35. So yeah, that was one that stood out to me of like, their production wise, they've got us, because now nowhere did I say, and you haven't said either, is like, this feels so drawn out.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
Like, so many songs is one verse.
Yeah.
Is one, saying, think about like a one verse song and the verse is like 2 stanzas and it's 5 minutes. It's like, just doing that math, we would be like, okay, what's going on here? But no, they got us.
Yeah, and I think that the production is like, it's varied in a way that, like, because of the song length, right? I think that they're utilizing the pace really well, because not fast. The songs are slow as fuck, right? Super, super slow. But it always feels as though there's always one thing that is pulling you.
Yes.
In every song, right? Like People in the Streets, right? I think is one of the best examples of that, where it's literally this one, like, I'm assuming it's a guitar, where it's like the doom, 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 doom. And that is probably my favorite part of the entire song, is that.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, if I'm being honest with you, that one part where it's just like do, 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 do. And that happens, I want to say, for like, that's just brought through the entire song for about like a minute or 2-3 minutes. And then they never bring it back again, right? Because it's such a great open, personally. It's such a great opening, and then that sequence, like, they changed the notes in that sequence. That is not, they never do it again. But I'm like, you guys should totally brought that back at the end, because that was the shit for me.
Yeah.
But because it progresses, all of the songs have like a progression part to them. It doesn't come back. But so I'm heartbroken by that. But I was like, it's pretty crazy that my favorite part to this song in particular is literally just like one instrument, like
the intro, basically.
Yeah, the intro. I'm like, yo, this shit is awesome. Why isn't this coming around more?
That's a testament to the production, because I think about when other artists we've reviewed, have done similar things like this and we trash it, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, that guitar at the beginning is boring. I was ready for the song to start, you know? That you're highlighting that as your favorite part of the song. And so I think about that, it's like, that's like, you know, the little choices of, okay, this melody clearly works, you know, these chords clearly work. So I think they've done a great job with that. The other one is Nothing to Declare.
Yeah.
Nothing to Declare for me, for the most of the song, I call it's very harmless. There's nothing dynamic about that song for the most part, you know. It is very, very harmless. We talked about Harry Styles' album being fit for the Costco. Nothing to Declare is given Costco.
It's given Costco. It's given, you know, coffee shop.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those.
Yeah, it's giving a coffee shop. And it's not giving coffee shop like, I need to Shazam this.
Yeah.
It's giving coffee shop as like, okay, I can read through this, you know? So I want to have
I'm loving the production in that one.
Well, there is something I do like at the end.
Okay.
At the end, when the song's kind of ending and it's, you know, more of this like kind of the lighter singing over the instrumentation, the drums kind of change a little bit and kind of pick up, and I do like that. But I think it's almost too late at that point.
Yes,
because
it is.
as the singing, you know, dies down, you try and pick up the percussion, and it's like, okay, it's a little too late.
Yeah. So that's why I was saying, like, there's sometimes this is one of those songs, like, it's a casual listen. It kind of just like washes over you, and you're like, whatever. Like, it doesn't really affect you. And I think that, I don't know if it's just like the nature of like the genre of music that they make, where like you can just casually listen to it and just like it just passes you.
They've always been like that. Yeah.
So some like Nothing to Declare has that. I would say Phradie's song does not do that. Like I feel like Phradie's song basically is a nursery rhyme, right? I love a good nursery rhyme.
You do love a good nursery rhyme.
I love a good nursery rhyme. It reminded me personally of like my parents would sing nursery rhymes. Okay. And I've seen, you know, other, you know, people in my family sing children nursery rhymes and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, this is like, it was heartfelt. And I think that the chimes in it are so good. The chimes at the beginning set like this very like light, dreamy tone that the entire album is going for. But it's like distorted in this watery way where it makes it sound more dreamlike versus just like straight up chimes.
Yeah, it is kind of like you're coming out of a sleep.
Yeah.
And you heard chimes in your dream and you thought it was your dream, but it's actually your alarm and you're late. So no, I think that's a good one. I want to talk about this album as a whole. Do you have any other production? Because I want to start from the beginning.
No, I think that's kind of it. I think there's very few flubs when it comes production wise. I think its only issue is you can press play and just like the songs should just pass you by without even knowing that you switched up songs.
And I do think that for a new listener who hasn't heard MGMT since 2008, you know, I wonder which songs are they gonna save on their add to like songs. Right. That's what I wonder, because this whole thing can wash over you. You could have this in the background and you could be at song 7 before you even know it. Yeah.
And there's only 10 songs, so that's a lot of the songs.
You know, so that's my thing, because that's how a lot of people listen to music these days, is like they're not gonna go back and listen to a full project. They want to see what songs from this can I add to my playlist. And so that's my biggest question is, you know, I think we're not the average listener. Will the average listener have those? Before we talk about this album as a whole, because I feel like we both love the cohesiveness of this project, and that's probably its highest points, I would say, from us. How did you feel about the intro, Loss of Life?
Oh, I was going to ask you the same question. So wait, so when you say the intro, are you talking about part 2?
Part 2.
Okay. I think this just like section of like them doing Loss of Life part 1 as the last track and then Loss of Life part 2 as the first track is unique. I've never seen that. Yeah, I've never seen that before. So I would say that's unique. I would say that the clip at the end to go into the rest of the album, I guess it's a little bit jarring. Not like, oh my, whoa, what's happening? But it was a little bit like, oh, okay, I guess the real album is starting now. Like I felt as though they built it for repeat listens, right? Like the way that we're talking about, oh yeah, the songs can kind of like wash over you. You can listen to like 7 in a row without really noticing. I think they really built it so that you hit this part,
Yeah.
it kind of like jumps you in because of that jarring effect.
Yeah.
But by the time you get to the end, it loops, right? It loops naturally because the end is actually technically the beginning.
I like that they did that. I think that my only problem with the intro is that it felt misleading to me on what the project on what the project became. I still like what the project became, but I think when you hear the intro, your antennas are up for a different project than we ended up getting.
Yeah, you're definitely more prepared for a spacious type of album, you know, much more just much more like intergalactic.
Even more political in the lyrics too.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I think that's like the lyrics aren't always the strong point for them. I think that some people who are fans of them don't even know what they're saying half the time, if I'm being honest. So it's like with that started, it's like, okay, this is where we're headed. This is where we're going to. So that was my only negative from the intro is that, yeah, we thought we were heading into the spaceship, beam me up. So that's the only problem here. But I think as a cohesive project, this is it. I think this is a good project in terms of an actual theme from start to finish.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're talking about this the context of their career, this is a plus to me. I think that it's going to be iffy just because they're one of these bands, again, like having songs that are bigger than the band itself is such a rare thing at this point. It's so rare. But they're one of the few bands where that's still the case. And this ain't Electric Feel. There is no Electric Feel on here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would hope that the fans who've listened to their last project, Little Dark Age, are accustomed to, okay, they're not the same band from Rackler Spectacular. But I think that, it being 6 years and 2024, there are definitely some people who are coming in who haven't listened since then, who are like, where's the kids? Where's the Electric Feel? So for that reason, I'm interested to see how that goes and how people take that. But if you're coming in, with some real open ears, I think you're gonna like what you hear.
Yeah, and me too. And I think in this context of their career, I think it's going to be good for them just because I think it's going to be reviewed well. Like I feel,
yes,
I feel like this is kind of like
the record.
It's better. Well, personally,
it's
better than the record.
But it's being reviewed well. It's different demographics here.
Yes, it is.
So
it's gonna get reviewed well. I can just tell you that because when you read the lyrics, it's like a critical darling in the way. It's like if you read the lyrics, it's actually really fucking good.
Yes.
Right. And people who are critics like to read the lyrics. Exhibit A.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's gonna be reviewed well, and I think that kind of like helps them in the sense that, okay, it's been 6 years. It's not the monster hit that we all know and love, but it was good. This is really good. So you're like your 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, which is seriously, those are the people that grew up with this being like their college music.
100%.
They're like, oh yeah, new MGMT. They still got it, baby.
And my guess is that their taste has matured.
Yeah.
As they've grown. So I think there's going to be a lot of love for this project. The cover, this is so funny because I keep going back to Rackler Spectacular because that is, again, their breakout project.
Right.
But even not that, because the two albums for me was that and Congratulations that were like the darlings for me. The actual self-titled album, which this is one that came out when I was the biggest fan, was the one that I liked the least.
Oh, wow.
Out of their first three projects. But I think that this is, again, it matches the Sonics. There's despair and darkness all over this cover. I'm sure it has some deeper meaning that we don't understand because I think this man on this...
The pale horse. Maybe they're dying.
I think there's something there. But I do think, so we're seeing the growth. We're talking about the context of their career. Rackler Spectacular is full of color, that cover.
Yeah.
Congratulations, full of color. Even Late Night Tales is a little bit darker, but still full of color. This...
Yeah, it's just pitch black. It's mostly black.
It's mostly pitch black. And it's very abstract. I think that's the difference is they were on the cover of the first, you know what I mean? I think they've always kind of have some abstraction in their art. That's just been a big part of MGMT and why they were so popular. But this is a whole different level, and it's just so much darker. But I like this cover.
Yeah.
And I think it fits the music.
Me too, definitely. It definitely fits the music. I like the cover too. I like the accent of the blue, is a cool effect because everything else is either black and white or like this weird
yellow,
orange.
yeah.
So I like that additional aspect of color, but it looks cool. I think it definitely will look interesting if you had it on a shelf. It would look very, very interesting on a shelf, like if you had a stand or something like that.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the album art is cool.
It actually looks like art.
Yeah.
That color, for anyone who's listening to the podcast while you watch on YouTube, that color looks like that pencil crayon or that crayon color that they told you was skin tone when you were a kid. That's what.
That's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like.
So yeah, and it's also like blurry a little bit. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So I think it's great. Mm-hmm. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Are you going to be getting the vinyl?
Debatable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
I'm also on the fence, but let's hear your score.
Okay. So the score, I think this is, I'm going to say an 8.5 out of 10. Oh, wow. I'm going to say, or even, I think it's an 8. I think it's an 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. I think that it's well written until it gets to the points where you're like, I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Mm-hmm. But the sequence when we do know what we're talking about was really good.
Yeah.
And I think that the production, even though that it did mislead us at the very beginning.
Yes. Brief misdirection.
Yeah, brief misdirection at the beginning. I do think that it worked well at the end. Mm-hmm. Right? And then the fact that it loops into itself works really well. I would just say that like my negatives is like what you were mentioning earlier with like which song was it where the percussion comes in too late?
Nothing changes.
Yeah, Nothing Changes was one of my lowlights as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that overall it's really good though. Mm-hmm. Overall, it's really good. Not as bombastic as their previous work.
No.
Not as sexy as their previous work. But it's there for it's the critical. I'm telling you, this shit is gonna get rated super well. As a critical
I 100% see that as well.
Yeah,
I think this is interesting because I feel like we often have time separating artists from their past art, and this is a time where we were able to give them their credit because this is nothing like some of their past work.
Yeah,
and for it to still get a good rating from you, I think that's big. For me, it's a 7.5.
Okay.
I was like, will Demar lead me in any direction, going from a 7 to an 8? Where are we gonna go? I think I'm gonna stay at a 7.5. For MGMT, Loss of Life, 10 songs, 45 minutes. That is.
I know.
That is chef's kiss.
It's really only 8 songs though. Because the first and the last one, not really.
Yeah, and so I think that's chef's kiss. I think there's just so many good things they're doing production wise. We didn't talk about it at all, but Christine and the Queens.
Oh yeah.
That what do you call that now? A duet they did for Dancing in Babylon. I like that a lot. Bubblegum Dog, People in the Streets, Phradie's song, I Wish I Was Joking. There's no throwaways on this project. I think this is almost like when you get Mario in Mario Kart. Everything's gonna be at least level. Yeah. Maybe not dynamic or amazing. Everything is at least level. So for me, it's a 7.5. I think this could be an album that grows on me and it's on everyone because this definitely probably number one of all the albums we reviewed of replay quality from start to finish.
Yeah, probably.
Like this is an album that I'm less enticed to go listen to one song. I feel better listening to this thing from top to bottom. So this is 7.5 for me. I want to hear what everyone thinks in the comments. Let us know.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, where you at? And I want to know. This is your first time hearing MGMT. Like, do you know Electric Feel? You've never heard Electric Feel? Is that the only song you know from them? I'm very interested to see because I think MGMT is one of those bands that a lot of people know of,
but not a lot about,
or they don't really listen to. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a good entry for someone to kind of learn them again.
Yeah, 2007, that was 17 years ago.
Yeah,
so
I feel old.
That's a whole different, that's going to be a whole different demographic that is listening to their music.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. We're looking forward to it. I said this during the review. I'm like, I haven't listened to anything they've dropped since, what was it, Ocular Spectacular?
Ocular Spectacular.
Yeah, Ocular Spectacular.
Oracular Spectacular.
Oracular Spectacular, sorry. I haven't listened to her music since. right? So they kind of just breeze past me.
Yeah, I
So
didn't.
I'm catching back up. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of good stuff happening here, right? And I could be pulled back in.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how people receive this.
Yeah,
But listen, you heard it here first. We gave it 7.5, 8.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, if you somehow listen to this review but not the album, go listen to the album.
Yeah,
And of course, follow us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok, at Album Mode Pod on Instagram. Of course, YouTube people, like this video, share, leave us a comment, and make sure you are subscribed. And until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
later, people.